Jack's day had been long, as usual. The sun was setting over the jagged ridges of the mining planet, casting orange light over the metal structures of his small outpost. He wiped the grease from his hands and leaned against the hull of a transport ship, listening to the distant hum of machinery. Life here was quiet, lonely, and predictable, which suited him just fine most of the time. That is, until the storm came. It started as a faint gust of wind but quickly escalated into a violent sandstorm. Jack had seen storms before, but this one seemed different, angry, almost purposeful. He rushed to secure the outpost doors and check the energy generator. The storm's force rattled the walls, and for a moment he worried that the communications array might be damaged. But then he saw something that made him freeze. A small object was streaking across the horizon, moving erratically. At first he thought it was debris from another part of the storm, but it was too controlled. It crashed into the rocky ground nearby with a loud thud, sending up a cloud of dust. Jack's heart skipped a beat. A ship. Someone was alive inside, or at least he hoped so. He grabbed his jacket, a flashlight, and a basic survival pack before heading out into the storm. The wind cut across his face, and sand burned his skin, but he pressed on. When he reached the crash site, he was met with the sight of a small, sleek spacecraft, its hull scratched and bent from impact. The cockpit glass was cracked, and smoke rose from a damaged engine. Jack took a deep breath and carefully pried open the cockpit. Inside, slumped over the control panel, was a young woman. Her hair, silver in the light of the storm, was tangled and dirty, and her clothes glimmered faintly, as if woven from some strange metallic fabric. She was unconscious, but she was breathing. "Hey, you're going to be okay," Jack muttered, trying not to panic. He carefully lifted her from the cockpit and carried her toward his outpost. The storm made each step a challenge, and the sharp rocks cut through his boots, but he ignored the pain. She needed him more than he needed to be careful. Once inside, he laid her on a makeshift bed and stripped off some of the torn fabric from her clothing to check for injuries. There were bruises, cuts, and burns, but no broken bones, at least none he could feel. He tore a piece of cloth to make bandages and applied basic antiseptic he kept for emergencies. When she began to stir, Jack stepped back slightly. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing a bright, almost unnatural color, shifting between silver and blue. She blinked a few times and tried to speak, but the words were strange, incomprehensible. "Easy, it's okay," Jack said, keeping his tone calm. He offered her water in a small cup. She accepted it hesitantly, her fingers brushing against his. Jack felt a strange chill at the touch, though he shook it off as nerves. "Who are you?" he asked gently. She looked at him, but her eyes betrayed confusion and fear. She tried again to speak, and this time she managed a single word in broken English. "Lyra." "Lyra, huh?" Jack said, nodding. "All right, Lyra, you're safe here. I'll take care of you." Over the next few hours, Jack worked to make her comfortable. He brought warm food, checked her injuries, and even set up a temporary power shield over the outpost to keep the storm from breaching the walls. All the while, Lyra remained quiet, observing him with intense curiosity. She didn't sleep much, her eyes scanning every corner of the outpost as if she were assessing it for threats. Jack noticed small, unusual things about her. When a tool slipped from his hands, she caught it mid-air, faster than any human could react. When he tried to repair a damaged power conduit, she instinctively guided his hands, pointing out connections and adjustments he hadn't noticed. He brushed it off as skill, but deep down, he felt there was more to her than met the eye. Night came, and the storm outside raged on. Jack sat across from her, a cup of steaming synth coffee in his hands. He studied her quietly, trying to make sense of everything. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked. She nodded slightly, her eyes flicking toward the window as if the thought of answering terrified her. "Don't worry, you don't have to tell me everything," Jack said, offering a reassuring smile. He leaned back in his chair and took a sip of his coffee, though he barely tasted it. Something about this stranger, this Lyra, made him uneasy in a way he couldn't explain. She was fragile, but there was power in her presence, an energy he felt down to his bones. The next day, the storm finally began to subside. Jack knew he had to act quickly. Someone had to have tracked her ship, and staying in one place for too long was dangerous. He helped Lyra move to the small shuttle dock, a covered area where he kept a few smaller vehicles. She still could not speak fluently, but she nodded when he offered her food and water, showing she understood trust and safety. Jack spent time examining her spacecraft. The damage was extensive, beyond what he could fix alone. As he worked, he noticed markings and symbols on the ship, symbols that glowed faintly when his tools brushed near them. He frowned, unfamiliar with their meaning. They weren't human, not from any world he had ever known. Lyra, noticing his concern, reached out and gently touched the ship's console. Her fingers moved with precision and the console lit up, humming softly. Jack stepped back, astonished. She didn't need him to repair it. She simply knew what to do. "You're not just some traveler, are you?" he asked quietly. She looked at him, and for the first time a flicker of emotion crossed her face, relief perhaps that he understood her without words. She said nothing, but her hand lingered on the console, steadying it as if commanding it silently. Days passed. Jack and Lyra formed a routine, simple but meaningful. She helped him around the outpost, and in return he ensured she was safe, fed, and rested. She never revealed where she came from or who she truly was, though she would occasionally glance at the sky, her expression distant and almost melancholic. Jack respected her silence, sensing there was a story too dangerous to speak aloud. But peace never lasts long in space. Late one evening, Jack noticed movement near the perimeter of the outpost. Figures in dark suits crept across the rocky terrain. Scavengers, predators who had learned about Lyra's ship and the mysterious cargo it carried. Jack's heart pounded. He grabbed a rifle from the wall and motioned for Lyra to stay inside. When the scavengers attacked, it was chaos. Jack fired carefully, dodging and weaving among the outpost's metal supports. Bullets ricocheted off walls, sending sparks flying. Lyra, to Jack's shock, moved with unmatched agility. She leapt across platforms, disarming attackers with precise strikes. She didn't need weapons. Her reflexes and strength were enough to incapacitate the enemies. Jack fought alongside her, gradually realizing something incredible. She was not just skilled, she was extraordinary. Every movement, every action she took was calculated, perfect, and almost inhuman. Yet she never harmed more than necessary. Her purpose wasn't violence, it was protection. After a tense skirmish, the scavengers retreated, leaving a trail of destruction behind. Jack's outpost was battered, but it still stood. He looked at Lyra, who was breathing heavily but uninjured. Her eyes met his, and for the first time he felt he was seeing the real her, a warrior, a survivor, and something far greater than he had imagined. "Who are you really?" Jack asked, lowering his rifle. She didn't answer immediately, only shook her head as if the truth was too dangerous to speak. Jack nodded, understanding the weight of what she carried. He didn't need her to explain everything, not yet. That night, as they sat in the remains of the outpost, Jack reflected on the last few days. He had saved a stranger, yes, but he had also discovered something remarkable. In a galaxy filled with uncertainty and danger, he had found someone worth protecting. Someone whose presence challenged everything he thought he knew about humanity, courage, and loyalty. Lyra, meanwhile, stared at the sky, her thoughts miles away, thinking of home, of responsibilities, and of the dangers that now hunted her. She knew she could not stay here forever, yet for the first time, she felt a strange sense of trust in this human who had taken her in. He was simple, straightforward, and unafraid to act when needed, qualities she had almost forgotten existed in the galaxy's ruling circles. As the first light of a new day broke over the jagged ridges, Jack and Lyra prepared for the challenges ahead. The storm had passed, but the real trials were only beginning. And somewhere deep in her heart, Lyra understood that this human, this stranger she had met in a remote, hostile world, might be the key to surviving what was coming. And Jack, unaware of her true identity, silently vowed to keep her safe, no matter what the cost. The storm had passed, but Jack knew that peace was fragile. Every day in this remote part of the galaxy carried the possibility of danger, and now that Lyra was here, he could feel it more than ever. She stayed mostly quiet, observing the outpost, the skies, and even him with an intensity that was hard to ignore. Jack had grown used to the silence, but he often caught himself wondering about the strange symbols on her ship and the mysterious glow in her eyes. They had spent the morning assessing the damage from the skirmish. The outpost's walls were dented, the communications array was partially broken, and several solar panels had been shredded by the storm. Jack worked quickly, repairing what he could while Lyra watched and occasionally offered silent guidance. Her gestures were minimal but precise, pointing to connections he had overlooked or suggesting alternate ways to route the energy. "I don't know how you know all this," Jack said at one point, wiping sweat from his brow. "You've barely been here a week, and yet you already understand the systems better than I do." Lyra didn't answer in words, but she nodded, her fingers brushing against a loose panel, adjusting it so the reading stabilized. Jack shook his head, partly amazed, partly uneasy. There was something about her that wasn't just human. He could feel it in the way she moved, thought, and reacted. By midday, the repairs were enough for them to leave the outpost safely. Jack had made arrangements for basic defenses and stocked the small shuttle with supplies, knowing they might have to move quickly if danger came again. "We should head toward the station," Jack said, glancing at the distant horizon. "There's a neutral trade hub a few jumps from here. If anyone is looking for you, they might track your ship. That station will let us send a message, maybe even get help." Lyra's eyes flicked toward the stars. She hesitated, then slowly nodded, her expression unreadable. Jack didn't press her for answers. He had learned to trust her instincts. Whatever secrets she carried, she would reveal them when the time was right. The journey through space was tense. Jack piloted the shuttle carefully, navigating narrow asteroid belts and dodging debris fields. He felt Lyra beside him, calm and composed, yet always alert. She didn't speak much, but occasionally she would touch a console or gesture to a sensor, subtly adjusting their course. Her skills were remarkable, and Jack couldn't help but feel that they were lucky to have her along. Late in the second day, they encountered their first real test. A patrol of heavily armed ships appeared on the sensors, moving fast and precise. Jack's heart sank. They were too fast and organized to be ordinary pirates. This was a coordinated attack, and it was directed at Lyra's ship. "Get ready," Jack said, gripping the controls. "They're coming for us." Lyra stood silently beside him, her posture calm, almost regal. When the first enemy ship opened fire, she reacted with speed Jack could barely follow. She guided his hands on the weapon controls, adjusted shields, and calculated maneuvers instinctively. Jack followed her lead, surprised by how naturally she commanded the shuttle. Bullets and energy blasts streaked past them, hitting asteroids and echoing across the void. Jack fired strategically, but it was Lyra who truly kept them alive, predicting the enemy's movements and reacting before he even realized the threat. After several tense minutes, the patrol disengaged, retreating toward the outer rim. Both Jack and Lyra exhaled deeply, shaken but unharmed. "You're incredible," Jack said, his voice full of awe. "I've never seen anyone move like that. You didn't even break a sweat." Lyra looked at him, her expression calm, almost sad. She didn't answer at first. Finally, she spoke in broken English. I trained, always trained for survival. For duty." Her eyes met his, and Jack saw something heavy in them, a weight of responsibility that he couldn't imagine. "Duty? You mean like a soldier?" Jack asked, curiosity overtaking his fear. She shook her head, then tapped the small pendant she wore around her neck. It glimmered faintly, more brightly than usual. Jack frowned. "What's that?" Lyra's fingers lingered on the pendant for a moment. Then she spoke, voice low. "It shows who I am, who I must protect, who will follow me. Only few can see." Jack didn't press further. Somehow he felt that asking more might be dangerous, that there were truths she couldn't share. He nodded, deciding to trust her instincts. The shuttle continued its journey, moving quietly through the star systems. Over the next day, Jack and Lyra began to communicate more, though still limited. She revealed bits about her home, vague descriptions of vast cities, fleets of ships, and a people ruled by tradition and duty. Jack listened carefully, fascinated by her knowledge and the weight of the life she carried. "Why are you here alone?" Jack asked cautiously one evening as they rested near a small gas giant for fuel. "Did something happen? Did someone hurt you?" Lyra's eyes darkened and she hesitated before speaking. "Yes, my ship attacked. My people not all friends. Some want me gone, destroyed. I escaped." Her words were measured but filled with quiet urgency. Jack could see the fear in her eyes, the weight of being hunted. "I understand," he said, "and you'll be safe with me. I won't let them catch you. I don't care who you are." His words seemed to give her a flicker of relief, though her guard remained. As they neared the station, another obstacle appeared. A rogue squadron of ships, smaller, faster, and more aggressive, intercepted them, blocking their path. Jack's heart pounded as he maneuvered the shuttle through narrow corridors of asteroids, trying to evade fire. Lyra, standing beside him, directed each move with precision, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to Jack's tense focus. In the heat of the chase, Jack noticed her eyes glow faintly when she made a calculation. It wasn't just instinct, it was something more, something beyond human comprehension. Her knowledge of trajectories, timing, and strategy was instantaneous, flawless. He realized that whatever she was prepared for challenges that went far beyond his experience. After a tense series of maneuvers, they finally broke free from the squadron, using a narrow asteroid canyon to hide their escape. The shuttle shuddered from the strain, but both survived. Jack exhaled deeply, glancing at Lyra. "You didn't even need the guns," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "You just knew." Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I protect, I survive, I must live to return." Jack realized that she wasn't exaggerating. Every action she had taken, every calculation and decision was guided by purpose. She had survived this long not by luck, but by skill, intelligence, and something more, something he couldn't quite name. Finally, they arrived at the station. It was a bustling hub, neutral territory where traders, diplomats, and travelers from across the galaxy came to rest, refuel, and conduct business. The station's massive structure loomed above, lights blinking in every direction. Jack docked the shuttle carefully, knowing that this was only the first step in a much larger journey. Inside the station, they kept a low profile. Lyra moved with grace and poise, but there was a tension in her shoulders. Jack could see that she was calculating, observing every face, every movement, as if searching for threats. He admired her, not just for skill, but for courage. The courage to be vulnerable in a place filled with strangers who might be enemies. They secured a private room and Jack set up a small workspace. He examined her pendant again, curious. "You really won't tell me what this is?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "Not yet, dangerous. They watch, they wait, must be careful." Jack nodded. He understood that trust had to be earned and he didn't push. Instead, he focused on helping her repair the small communicator in her ship. As they worked together, Jack began to see more of her humanity, her humor, quiet determination, and moments of vulnerability. Though she was extraordinary, she was also relatable in small, subtle ways that made him care even more. Hours passed. The station was calm for now, but the shadow of pursuit loomed. Jack knew it was only a matter of time before Lyra's enemies discovered her location. Yet he felt no fear, not for himself but for her. He had grown attached not just to the person she appeared to be, but to the truth he sensed beneath, the strength, courage, and hope she carried. At one point, Lyra stood by the window, gazing at the stars. Jack joined her silently, respecting the quiet. "You must miss home," he said gently. She didn't answer immediately. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Home, yes, but danger everywhere. I survive alone too long." Jack nodded. "You're not alone anymore." "Not while I'm here." She looked at him then, her eyes wide and serious. "You trust me." "Completely," he said without hesitation. "I don't know what you are or what you've faced, but I know this. I won't let anything happen to you, not while I can stop it." For a moment the bond between them felt tangible, a silent agreement of loyalty and trust. It was more than words. It was action, courage, and understanding. And in that moment, Jack realized that this stranger, this mysterious girl he had taken in, was more than just a passenger. She was a catalyst, someone who would change everything about his life, and perhaps the galaxy itself. As night fell over the station, Jack and Lyra prepared for the next stage of their journey. Lyra would send a message to her loyal forces, alerting them to her situation, but it would take careful planning. And Jack knew that their time here was limited, danger was patient, and it would not wait. Yet for now they rested, sharing silence and a sense of purpose. Jack understood that the road ahead would be difficult, filled with enemies, uncertainty, and revelations he could not yet imagine. But he also knew that humanity, his own courage, resourcefulness, and loyalty, would be tested in ways he had never expected. And in Lyra he had found someone who, despite all her power and mystery, reminded him that even in the vastness of space, connection, trust, and courage could shine brighter than any star. The future was uncertain, the dangers real, but one thing was clear: they would face it together. Jack and Lyra prepared carefully in the private quarters of the station. The hum of activity outside reminded them that the universe moved on, indifferent to the dangers that pursued them. Lyra sat quietly, examining the small communicator device Jack had helped repair. This device was her only link to her loyal forces, the only way to reclaim control and safety. Jack watched her, admiring the calm authority in her movements, even as he knew how fragile their situation truly was. "We can't wait too long," Jack said, his voice low but firm. "If they track this station, we'll have no warning." Lyra nodded, her silver-blue eyes intense. "Yes, must act carefully." Jack studied her, realizing more than ever that she was not just a survivor. She was a leader, someone who carried responsibility far beyond what most humans could imagine. And yet, she had chosen to trust him, a simple miner and pilot, to help her in this fight. The message was sent through the communicator, encrypted and coded to reach her allies in the Solari Dominion. Jack had watched her input the commands, fingers moving with precision, each decision deliberate. When it was done, she exhaled slowly, a rare sign of relief passing over her face. "They know where I am now," she said quietly. "They will come fast." Jack nodded. "Then we prepare, and we fight if we must. You won't face this alone." True to her warning, alarms blared through the station only hours later. Scout ships detected approaching vessels, sleek, dark, and deadly. Lyra's enemies had traced her. Jack hurriedly loaded the shuttle with supplies and weapons, checking the systems once more. Lyra stood beside him, calm and resolute, yet Jack could sense the tension beneath her composed exterior. When the first attack came, it was swift and brutal. Ships moved in perfect formation, energy blasts cutting through the void. Jack piloted the shuttle with care, dodging attacks while keeping Lyra safe. Her presence beside him was steadying, her insight guiding his hands, adjusting shields, and navigating the shuttle with flawless precision. During the battle, Jack noticed a change in her, something that confirmed what he had suspected. Lyra wasn't merely skilled, she was extraordinary. Her mind worked in a way that combined strategy, intuition, and speed beyond human limits. She coordinated their moves, calculated trajectories, and suggested offensive maneuvers that saved their lives more than once. "This is insane," Jack muttered, ducking as an energy blast scorched the shuttle's hull. "I've never seen anyone fight like this." Lyra's eyes met his, a faint smile crossing her face. Not fight, survive, protect, duty. By the end of the first wave, they had managed to outmaneuver the attackers, though the shuttle was badly damaged. Jack guided it toward a nearby asteroid belt, hoping to use the terrain for cover. Lyra helped stabilize the ship, her fingers moving over controls with effortless grace. Jack had never worked alongside anyone like her. She was fast, precise, and fearless, yet always thoughtful in her actions. As they moved deeper into the asteroid belt, Lyra finally spoke more freely. "Jack, you must know who I am." Jack frowned. "I thought I did, some kind of warrior, someone important, right? But I don't know the full story." She hesitated, then removed the pendant from around her neck. It glimmered in the dim light of the shuttle's console. "I am Princess of Solari Dominion. My throne, my people, I must lead them. I am hunted, betrayed. Those who follow me are few." "I need your help." Jack's eyes widened. A princess. He had suspected she was extraordinary but royalty, and not just any royalty but a galactic leader with enemies powerful enough to chase her across systems. Yet he didn't flinch. "Lyra, that doesn't matter to me. You're alive and I'm not letting them get to you. I don't care who you are." Her eyes softened just slightly at his words. "Few humans are like you, brave, pure. I did not expect." Jack smiled faintly. "Well, I guess you're lucky you crashed near my outpost then." The asteroid belt provided temporary shelter, but they could not stay hidden forever. Lyra's enemies were relentless, and Jack knew they would need a plan to reach her loyal forces safely. Over the next several hours, they repaired the shuttle as best they could. Lyra demonstrated advanced knowledge of alien technology, adjusting engines and shields in ways Jack couldn't fully understand. He realized that with her at his side, survival was possible, but only barely. Finally, they decided to make a daring jump to a nearby jump point, a narrow corridor that led to a neutral system where her allies awaited. It was risky, but it was the only chance they had. Jack steered the shuttle carefully, Lyra guiding him silently, her instincts perfectly in tune with the ship systems. As they entered the jump point, enemy ships appeared again. This time, they were prepared for an ambush. Jack gritted his teeth, piloting through tight turns and dodging energy blasts. Lyra directed him with calm authority, her hand resting lightly on the controls, almost as if she were an extension of the ship itself. The battle was intense. Energy blasts tore through the void around them, the shuttle shuddering under repeated attacks. Yet every time Jack thought they would be hit, Lyra's quick thinking and intuition saved them. She anticipated moves before they happened, redirected shields, and suggested evasive maneuvers that Jack could never have calculated on his own. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the other side of the jump point. The neutral system opened before them, a series of trading stations and safe harbors. Lyra's loyal forces were waiting, sleek ships emerging from hidden docks to meet her. Relief washed over Jack as the attackers were forced to retreat, unable to follow into the protected system. When they landed, Lyra's allies swarmed the shuttle, scanning and verifying her identity. She finally allowed herself a small moment of relief, though the weight of responsibility remained in her posture. Jack remained nearby, silent but alert, watching as the scene unfolded. "You saved me," Lyra said softly, turning to him. "Not just once, many times. I owe you life, trust, all. You human are extraordinary." Jack chuckled lightly, brushing off the compliment. "I just did what anyone should. Besides, I had a good teacher." He gestured toward her, and she gave a faint smile, understanding the humor even in her limited English. The Loyalists escorted them to a secure area where Lyra could communicate with her advisors. Jack stayed close, observing the way her people treated her, with respect, awe, and careful loyalty. He realized that she carried not only power, but influence that could shape entire star systems. And yet here she was, trusting him, a human who had acted out of simple decency to protect her. Lyra's enemies were still a threat. Intelligence reports confirmed that rival factions within the Solari Dominion sought to remove her permanently. But with Jack by her side and her loyal forces mobilized, she had a chance. A small smile passed her face as she watched him quietly assess the situation, offering ideas and solutions where others might hesitate. "You human," she said after a moment, "you see value beyond strength. You see courage, loyalty, heart." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Is that supposed to impress me?" She gave a small nod, faintly amused. "Yes, rare among humans, few act like you. You make difference." Jack shrugged, though he felt a warmth in his chest at her words. "Well, I guess we're a lot stronger than you think. Not because of tech or politics or whatever, because we care. Because we act. That's what counts." Lyra's eyes glimmered, a mixture of admiration and disbelief. "Yes, act, even when fear, even when impossible. You human are hero." For the first time, Jack felt the weight of her words. He had never considered himself a hero. He was a pilot, a miner, a man living on the edge of known space. Yet here in this moment, he understood that simple actions, compassion, courage, loyalty, could have consequences far beyond what he imagined. He had taken in a stranger, a princess, and in doing so, he had altered the course of events in the galaxy. The days that followed were filled with planning and preparation. Lyra regained her strength and worked with her loyal forces to secure her claim. Jack, though still learning the intricacies of galactic politics, proved invaluable in strategy, logistics, and navigation. His human intuition, adaptability, and fearlessness complemented Lyra's skill and authority. Together, they became a formidable team, one that could face threats far beyond what either could handle alone. Finally, the decisive moment came. Lyra's enemies launched an assault on one of her key bases, hoping to crush her claim before she could solidify it. Jack and Lyra led a counterstrike, coordinating ships, ground forces, and defense systems with unmatched precision. The battle was fierce, chaotic, and dangerous, but Jack's quick thinking and Lyra's extraordinary skills turned the tide. In the climax, Jack personally intervened to protect Lyra when an enemy infiltrator breached the command center. He shielded her, using his body and instincts to deflect a lethal strike. Lyra's eyes met his in that moment, and she understood fully. Humans could be heroes in ways the galaxy had rarely seen. After the battle, the enemy forces were routed, and Lyra's authority was secure. She looked at Jack, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. "You saved more than me. You showed power of humans, heart, courage, loyalty. You are hero." Jack smiled, a mixture of pride and humility. "Guess I just did what anyone would do for a friend." Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft. "No more than friend. You changed everything. You human are part of future, my people and galaxy. You belong with us." Jack felt a surge of emotion he had never expected. He had started as a simple man on a remote planet, taking in a stranger out of compassion. Now he was part of something far greater, a galactic alliance, a story of courage, loyalty, and humanity's strength. He realized that even in a universe filled with power, politics, and danger, simple human qualities, courage, loyalty, compassion, could shine brighter than any technology or fleet. Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder. "Together, we strong. You human, my partner." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He didn't need a crown, a title, or recognition. He had something far more valuable, the respect of someone extraordinary, a bond forged in danger, and the knowledge that humanity, even one human, could make a difference across the stars. As they looked out over the fleet, preparing to restore order and justice to the Solari Dominion. Jack knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges, more enemies, more tests of courage. But with Lyra at his side and his human spirit guiding him, he was ready. Together, they would face whatever came next, proving that even in the vast, cold galaxy, humanity could shine brighter than any star. And for the first time, Jack truly understood what it meant to be heroic, not because of power, technology, or title, but because of heart, courage, and unwavering loyalty. Humanity had made its mark.